Howdy, friends and neighbors. Hope you guys are doing well. Took me an extra minute to get on tonight, but I see there's a ton of people in here already. A lot of familiar faces. I believe I saw Aaron in here as well, our fearless moderator. Thank you very much, Aaron. Let me fix this camera a little bit. There we go. So, lots and lots to talk about tonight. There are a ton of things going on in actuality that are going to have some effect on this team, and we'll get into them all, I'm sure. I see that there's a good group in here already and some questions, so I will not take long. Just a quick update that guard Kalichi Assembly is out at this point. It looks like they might be resting him for a little bit of precaution rather than like a significant injury, but that's something to keep an eye on. We have been doing a lot around the channel in terms of different kinds of film. The news last week kind of jumped the gun. So the Dorian Daniel review, I'll have that for you on Thursday. We've got some more for you tomorrow that's going to be great. We're moving to a different schedule. We're going to be pushing things to the edges of the week. Wednesday seems to be slowing down, so we're going to move things to Friday. And then as the season starts off, it's going to be all systems go. Tonight is a pale ale from... where did I get that? I don't remember. So cheers to you guys. I'm glad you guys are here. And there is a lot that we're happy about. Quick update on the memberships. They are coming. Tiers are going to be 3, 9, 25, and 50. Going to be interesting. We'll have a lot of different stuff at all those. Going to do some shout outs too, because I've been keeping a list of everybody who contributes here in the super chats and everything. And I want to give you guys some credit. So we're going to start doing some shout outs once we get those off the ground, which should be right around week 1. If you do want to leave super chats, feel free. We appreciate the support, but if you do, please make sure that you leave a little question in there so that I can give you something right here tonight. And the first comment that I see is from Cole, and it is a question. And we'll just get started. So thank you for being here. Here we go. Did you hear about D-Rob saying he wants to stay in Kansas City long term and win more Super Bowls with the Chiefs? I had not, actually. Jody Fortson was actually on the podium today, which was a little bit of a surprise. But I hadn't heard about Demarcus. It makes perfect sense to me. I mean, if there's any place in the league right now that he should feel comfortable and in a position to win at, it should be here. And, you know, the Chiefs could do a lot worse for their number 4 wide receiver. So I think he's got some competition. I think Pringle could be pushing for some playing time. So he's going to have to see how that works out. But, you know, if you're affordable and you're amenable and you put out good effort, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't want to bring him back with an inside knowledge of the game and of the offense. He's clearly got some chemistry with Patrick Mahomes. There's no reason not to. So more power to him. We'll see what happens down the line. Let's see who is next. Jacob, Gary, nice to see you. Curtis, how are you? Thank you for that reminder, Curtis. Very much appreciate it. A lot of the old hands around here will tell you guys, if you could help me find your questions by putting question marks at the front of the question, it just helps. And very much appreciated to all of you guys that have been here forever. Very nice. Let's see who's got the next one though. Oh, let's not get into Earl quite yet, Hog. I'm sure we'll get there. Casey said the same thing. Okay, so I guess we'll address that here before we get to Gary's question. Earl Thomas was very good in Seattle for a very long time, and it fizzled. A couple of back-to-back injuries were a big part of that. So I was pretty high on trying to get Earl last year. The Chiefs were going after him. It was very close that they could have signed him. They were talking to Tyron at the same time. They actually signed Tyron before the decision was made on Earl, at least in the public eye. I think actually they probably knew they were out for Earl before they signed Tyron. I could be wrong. That's just a guess on the way those negotiations go. But I don't think it would have been highly affordable to play them both in a defensive backfield. I could be wrong. I didn't think they'd get everybody signed this offseason either. So clearly the front office behind Brett Veach and Brad Tillis, they have ways to get things done that I just don't expect. But Casey, I will say this too. Earl's not the same player. I don't think he played near as well in Baltimore as he had in Seattle. And quite frankly, I'm not sure that he's an upgrade from Tyron. And I would not want to squash Juan Thornhill's development either. I think Juan Thornhill can be the pinnacle of the safety position, especially at free. So I wouldn't want to slow down his progression. I think that's a lot of money out the door for a guy who has proven in the last 12 months that he can't really get along with his teammates. The fact that the players had a meeting in Baltimore and told the management they're okay with him leaving, I think that says a lot. So, and then we'll get to Gary's question because he was next. Your opinion on the CBs, O-line, LBs, what position needs the most help before the season starts? You know, the Chiefs are clearly more comfortable with the cornerback group than I am. Steve Spagnuolo said today that it's not necessarily one person who's going to fill in for Bashaud Breeland while he's out. Okay, that makes some sense. I can get behind that. But you're going to piece it together, I'm guessing, based on matchup and based on skill set. He mentioned both L'Jarius Sneed and Willie Gay have a long way to go. He emphasized it a little bit more with L'Jarius, and that makes sense to me. But I don't feel like a couple of the guys who had access to the live streams with the team kind of took that a little too far in saying that L'Jarius isn't going to play this season and he's not ready. I don't think that's true. I think he has definite upside, and I think his physical capability put him at the top of the list while Bashaud Breeland is out specifically. And I don't think that what Spags said necessarily means that he's not going to be ready to play soon. There's a long way to go, and the coaches certainly have their work cut out for them in this shortened preseason. But I don't think that precludes anything. So I'm a little concerned about that. I would have said that I was getting comfortable with the offensive line if it wasn't for Assembly missing today. So that's kind of a big deal. They signed him late, I think, because most teams had stayed away from him because of this injury, of a shoulder injury in particular. This is what he had the falling out in New York about having the surgery to repair and all that. We don't necessarily have confirmation it's the same shoulder. So I'm going to act as though it is because I think that's probably the most likely scenario, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I think what we have to keep in mind is that it's something that's hurt him in the past, and it could be something going forward that continues to give him trouble. We have to, keep a close eye on that. The linebackers, I think, are going to come along. So I think I'm probably most comfortable with them right now. So, yeah, that's where I'm at, Gary. I am scrolling to try to get up here. Thank you for the super chats. I'm going to shout this out right now if I can get it scrolled to. So I'm not seeing a ton of questions in between. I am looking for them, though. Morbian, glad you made it. Dog, glad you made it. Justin Troba, nice to see you. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to get to that because I'm going to scroll slowly. Let's see. Who is next? There's starting to be some. Muhammad, how are you? Do you see Ryder improving in year 2? He's been there. I thought he had been there longer than that. Maybe I'm wrong. I'll have to go back and look. I don't know that I expect much improvement at this point. I think he is what he is for the most part. I think Kilgore is a guy that can play inside. I don't know. I see them pretty close to the same performance level. But Kilgore's more athletic, in my opinion, and maybe that's a better fit in this offense. So maybe that pushes Ryder to get better. I don't know. We could see Kilgore play. You never know. I think the whole concept of what Andy Reid and Andy Heck do is to keep a bunch of guys that are athletic enough to switch positions, that are athletic enough to play all along the front, and you have to roll the punches when those guys go down. Because no team survives a season completely intact. It just doesn't happen. So maybe we see them, maybe we don't. Maybe Ryder improves. I'm sure he can do a couple of little things. I haven't obviously seen him yet. I haven't seen anybody at camp. It's honestly pretty frustrating for me because usually by now it's late August. By now I know what's going on. Usually I'm there the second week in August, and I spend 3 days watching intently all the position groups, and I have a feel for who's going to make it and who's not, and I have a feel for how I think they can perform. I'm not always 100%, but I always have a feel by then. Now I have nothing. I'm just going off of what I can glean from what the Chiefs media arm puts out, and they are doing a heck of a job. They put out some great content, and it's not just the entertainment stuff. They put out some stuff that you can take some glimpses away from of who's running in what package next to whom and that kind of thing. But it's very, very hard, and it's very limited. So I just don't know exactly how that's coming along. The signing of Kilgore, I took as a bad sign for my guy, Darrell Williams, the center. Maybe that just means he's going to be a practice squatter and he needs a year to develop. That could certainly be the case. So we're going to find out. But that's a great question, Mohammed, and I appreciate you asking it. Who is next? Let's see. Tyler T. Do you see us signing any more veteran O-line? And if so, who? Man, I got to tell you, Kilgore caught me by surprise. He's not like a super highly rated guy that I actually saw coming. So I think especially on the offensive line, it's about guys that they feel fit their scheme. And a lot of that surprises me. So I can't say that I see anyone out there on the horizon that I think would be a great fit. But I'm sure Andy will. So I'm not going to go out on a limb at this point. But I think there could be another one in the future, especially with what happens with Assembly right now. I'm not sure that Nick Allegretti's ready. So, okay, hog farmer. You are a hog farmer. You know more about bacon than I do, probably. Although I do like it heavily peppered and cut real thick. Just my thoughts. Pie Dessert, how are you? Is Mike Dana and XL Reggie Ragland? BJ Kissel mentioned the comparison before because of his versatility. I don't necessarily think so. Reggie's a guy that plays on 2 feet. I think Mike Dana belongs in a 3-point stance, but I can see some similarities with their body types, and I think Dana is a little bit bigger if I saw his measurements correctly. But I will say this, BJ will know more than me because I've never seen either of them up close, and I've never seen Mike Dana in person at all. So, yeah, go with what BJ says. That's all I can really tell you. Let's see. Oh, I think all these were already in because I was late. So where was I? Yeah, I was just a little bit late tonight, you guys. I'm sorry. Will Snead make Pro Bowl in the next 3 years? That's a great question. I don't think I can predict that. I'm going to say no for now. Can he eventually? Yes. But there is a lot to learn about this scheme. And I think in terms of adapting to the NFL, that's going to be the challenge. Nothing against La Tech, but it's not that close to the NFL. He's got the skills and he's got the potential and he's got the athleticism, but he's got to put it all together. It might be a stretch, but I think he has that potential to eventually be a Pro Bowler. Yes. Let's all agree that Thomas is not coming to the Chiefs and never will. I'm with you, Ray. I don't see it happening. The Chiefs were high on him, but I think this behavior over the last year has probably turned them off. I could be wrong. Every time I say they won't do something, they go and do it. So I'm not going to say that tonight. Oregon Chief Chris, how are you? How much percent advantage do you think the Chiefs being back at full strength? I'm thinking 25%. Yeah. If they can get there. Right now, they're pretty beat up, to tell you the truth, though. That's a good point. There's so many teams out there that are not only beat up, but have new players in key positions all over the place. The Chiefs have a couple. But you can tell right now, Willie Gay doesn't look like he's like knocking the world out, and he's one of the better draft picks. They're still going to play Damian Wilson. They're still going to play Hitch. So you have that experience there. I think that gives them the heads up on most teams, to tell you the truth. Let's see here. Okay, next one. Oh, Chris too. CN rotation to replace Bashad while he's out. I'm guessing that was CB. Yep. Okay. Next comment was that. I think they still want to stay in nickel most of the time, but if they go base, Spags talked today about possibly seeing double tight end sets where you expect more run, where there's only 2 wide receivers. They do that, and it's Fenton and Ward. I think that's pretty clear. I think Fenton will be the first guy up. I think he will man the outside in that scenario when you're only facing 2 wide receivers. But when there's 3, I think they move him inside, and whoever comes in plays on the outside. And right now, despite L'Jarius being a rookie and Spag saying that he does have a long way to go, I still feel that he probably gives you more upside than Antonio Hamilton does. I don't think that he's got enough on tape to make me feel like he should be in there no matter what. I think Keys is farther off than that. So I think that might be the position that there could be a pickup of some guy and somebody with some experience. But that said, there could be a rotation there of Fenton, of Snead, and then any of those guys. Somebody's got to stand out. And right now, we haven't heard of anyone really stepping up to claim the mantle, so to speak. So I really don't know who it's going to be. That's why I'm kind of leaving it open that they could make another acquisition. I say no, Steve. I don't think that Earl is a fit at this point. It would have been one thing if he had gone through the season with all the static he got into over the offseason. That's one thing. That's off the field behavior that is a distraction sometimes, but I don't think it's necessarily detrimental to the team. But it wasn't just one fight at practice, I'll tell you that. They released him because of contact detrimental, which generally means that it is way more beyond a single incident. And the fact that the players were okay with him going, a guy that should be at the top of their list, a guy that should make them better all the way around. Normally you would see a team fight to keep that guy if they felt it was going to help. They didn't. So I think that says all I need to know, to tell you the truth. Alan, how are you? When will we see the Super Bowl rings? I have it on good authority from someone who has been sized for his, that we should see them here very close to opening weekend. That's all dependent on the schedule and how they produce them, but that's the general thought. So a couple more weeks and we should see them, you guys. Let's see. Morbian, I've been hearing good things about CEH. How about you? Yes, definitely. I think the coaching staff is positive on his pass blocking, which is the thing that you're always concerned about with a rookie. That's what kept Darwin Thompson off the field for the most part. Not only have we heard positive things from the coaching staff, but we've heard him be very specific about working at getting better at it. And he came from a pro offense where he did it pretty well. So I think that's very positive towards right now. I'm guessing that he's probably the starter, maybe even week one. I said a couple of weeks ago, and I said it fairly often, that maybe Darryl gets a couple of starts while he's getting up to speed, but he will eventually take over. It seems like he's making pretty quick progress. So maybe he is the opening day starter, and he and Darryl are going to be a 1-2 punch all season, I think, with sporadic fill-in from the other guys. I think DeAndre Washington is going to be a decent third down back when Clyde needs a spell. And we all know Darryl can play on third down, that he catches the ball well. I think this group is more homogenous than they appear on paper, to tell you the truth, in terms of their skill sets and fitting in to what they can do on the field when they're on the field. So that's kind of where I'm at. Muhammad, it's a good question. You see Neiman taking a step. I think he better. I think this is do or die. He's made some plays in the last week since they put on the pads, and I think that's a really positive sign. He's been a smart player that's been in good position and does his job, but he hasn't been like a game changer. If he can start doing that, if he can pick off a couple balls, force a couple fumbles, be in position to make some tackles for loss, I think you're going to see teams try to stretch them horizontally, get their backs involved even more. And if he is on the field in the nickel with Hitch or with Willie or in any combination, if he gets more time than he's had and he makes the most of it, I think that's still in the realm of possibility. I won't say that he's grown as far as he can grow. I think there's still upside left in Ben Neiman. Let's see. I like that one, Finn. And coming to a galaxy very, very close. I like that. Do you see Hitchens still being on the team next year? I think it's a possibility that it can get cut because you can get the advantage on the cap. I think it's about the development of Willie, to tell you the truth. You have to have somebody that can take over in the middle in terms of calling the defense and being the center of the defense. That's got to take some development. So I think it's 60-40 that he's probably on the roster next year. Right now, we'll have to see how things develop. Okay. Any word on Pinnell's suspension, firefighter? No, I have not seen the details yet. Generally, that means that it's under appeal, and we won't know until the decision is made on the appeal, and then we'll have an idea of what it is lengthwise. Tyler, how much do you think Kaiser will see the field this year? They're really playing it up, and from what I've heard from not only the team itself, but some of the beat reporters, that they feel he is making progress. So I think it's to the point now that if Ricky Seals-Jones recovers and is healthy, he's the backup, period. I don't think that's really a competition other than if he gets injured. But I think Deion Yelder is doing himself a disservice the longer he's out. And I don't know how bad his injury is. Maybe he really can't go, but he should be doing everything he can to get back out there, because it sounds like Kaiser's making enough improvement to give him a run to be the third. So that's kind of where I see it. Mr. Ian Roberts, thank you for the super chat as always. Your answer or question, of course, might be answered, but my thoughts on Thornhill starting week 1. Amazing that he's practicing only after only 8 months of rehab. ACLs normally take longer. They used to. They're getting quicker and quicker. But I agree with you. I wasn't sure that he was. I thought he might hit the field in a little bit of practice and have to take a step back. It seems like he's improving continually. He started, basic drills, and the first thing that you do at practice. Then he moved on to 7-7s of the yesterday or the day before. So like he's moving up in his intensity and his volume. That's a really good sign at this point. So I think the scales have tipped. I think it's probably 60-40 that he does start week 1. Now that's still pretty close, but I think it's definitely better than I thought it was a week ago. And I think that he'll continue to improve. I think he's pretty fired up from what I gather from what I take from his tone on social media. And you can't always go by that, but I think that it does give you a little bit of a hint. So yeah. And thank you again for the super chat. Appreciate the support. Why not? Do you like the name Turbo that Hitch gave Willie? Yeah, sure. I like anything the players give themselves because I think that's meaningful. Sometimes the coaches will nickname guys. Like Spags will call somebody by their initials because he doesn't want to mess with their name. Like he can't say Passanio, I don't think so. So he calls him TK. That's cool. But I like when the players give somebody something they've earned. C. Concepcion, how will the lack of fans in the stadium affect players' performance during the games? It gives the advantage to the quarterbacks on both teams. Specifically, when you're at Arrowhead, it lets the other quarterback have a better chance than they normally would because the fan volume, and 16,000 fans isn't anything to super sneeze at, but it's just not the volume that you normally get. It's a fifth of it. So even if they're all screaming at the top of their lungs, the opposing quarterbacks that come to play in Arrowhead this year will have an easier time doing their jobs than they would have last season or any season where there's a full crowd. Does that compute to playing better or staying closer in games? I don't know. I feel like, and I think Dan Sorensen said it today in his presser, I feel like this defense is not taking a step back from where they finished last year. I feel like they're hitting the ground running pretty well. That's what Sorensen said as well, and I found that really optimistic. If this defense can achieve early what they achieved late last year, it's not going to matter. And I think that that's going to make flip that even more so back the other way, where if the defense is that improved, it's not going to be a factor of the fact that players, the noise isn't affecting the opposing players. Now, the difference, the Chiefs are going to go into some stadiums on the road that don't have any fans. That only helps the Chiefs. And those that do have fans, is a partial stadium really going to affect Patrick Mahomes? I don't tend to think so. So I think all the way around, I think while all the quarterbacks will get a bump, I think Pat Mahomes he gets the same bump as everybody else. I think that helps him move that much farther ahead of everybody else in terms of putting up points in a fashion that is just unfathomable at this point. Scott Vansel, what's the status of Rankins? He's not practicing. They're keeping him out. He's on the PUP. At this point, I think that if he was going to return by the end of camp, he would have done it. Because right now, even if he starts back tomorrow, he's not going to get enough reps in any meaningful practice before the beginning of the season to make an impact. You got to step him along just like they've been doing with Want. So I think it may be the fact that he's a lineman rather than a DB, and though his injury was a few weeks earlier than Want's, I think it's more significant when you are a 300-pound lineman rather than a 220-pound safety. So I think that his timeline just should be naturally longer, and maybe he can return mid-season or something. I think they're going to have some attrition, so that might come in really, really handy, to tell you the truth. I know that they were encouraged by what he did last year, at least somewhat, and we'll see just how much that plays over. Hey, Longmorn, how are you? It's been a while. Glad you're back. Steven, who is your pick for a player on both sides of the ball that is going to break out? Maybe a surprise player too. Well, you guys heard me talk to Jody Fortson last summer before the draft. Evidently now Nate Taylor from The Athletic and Herbie Teope from the Star are both on him and say he's blasting up the charts. So maybe that's not a breakout player, but he's a guy that was a UDFA a year ago. And if he makes this roster, that's impressive. It's huge. And when Tyrann Mathieu is saying that you're coming out and competing with him, I think that's a good sign. So he'd be one. But breakout player, McColl on the one side and Juan on the other. Because I do feel that if Juan's healthy, and by all counts, he looks good and healthy, I think he was on the cusp of making more plays towards the end of last year, and I think he's hungry. And I think that turns into him making more plays on the ball, specifically in the air, pickoffs. I think that's going to improve for him. And I think McColl's I think he's just in the perfect position because they have to give focus to Kelsey and they have to give focus to Tyreek. And I think Sammy put everybody on notice in the Super Bowl, and now he's going to get more attention too. There just isn't enough DBs to go around, especially when McColl can run away from all of them. So I think it's going to be serious and a good chance for him to break out. Name changed. Without Pennell, how do you see the Chiefs' run defense faring the first 4 weeks? I think it's going to be a little bit rough, but I feel like Colin Saunders made progress last year. So I feel like right now, if they played a game tomorrow, it's Colin Saunders and Chris Jones are your starters because Pennell's suspended and Derek Notty's ankle is still bothering him. They gave him a rest practice yesterday because they need to make sure that he's fresh. So I don't think that he's 100% at this point. Beyond that, could it be Wharton? Could it be Hoyt? I think you might end up having a name on this roster to begin with because of Pennell's suspension that maybe we didn't expect a couple of weeks ago. So I think it's going to suffer a little bit, but I also think that those guys are improving, and I think Colin Saunders is going to be able to hold his own. So I'm optimistic about that. Kevin, how are you? Thoughts on Jody Fortson? You know, Chris and I just talked about this today for the Locked On Chiefs podcast, which is out now. So you guys can grab that when you're done here because we kind of went back and forth. Chris had a very good point that the Chiefs don't generally put somebody up on the podium for press conferences if they're not planning on them being part of the roster. So I think that might be a really positive sign. I would have told you a week ago that he was going to make it, that he is the 6th wide receiver behind Pringle and the big 4, including Demarcus at 4. The Marcus Kemp signing threw a little bit of a twist there because they're very similar in body type. They do a lot of the same things. And Kemp was coming on last camp. Now, can he make up that run? I don't know. Right now, I am leaning towards Fortson making the 53 as the 6th receiver. And I think it's Kemp that might be the guy that bumps him out of that, if not, because Kemp can play all the special teams and has a lot of experience, and he's one of Dave Tobe's boys. So I think that plays a serious factor at wide receiver 6. But, Kevin, I will tell you, I think right now that Fortson makes it. Scott Vancil outside of Mahomes, who would be one player? The top dog, it's going to be Tyrann. Who else? Muhammad, how are you? You got a lot of good ones tonight. Do you think that LJ being a major contributor this season and beyond? Beyond, yes. I think he will play a role early with Bashaud Breeland out. When Breeland comes back, I think L'Jarius will lose some snaps. And that's okay. He needs to get exposed to the league, and then he needs to retreat, rebuild, adjust. And I think he might be in a position where late in the season, he might be able to play a bigger role and having learned will be in a better position to help the team too. So I'm optimistic about that. Finn, if CH goes rookie of the year, is the rule for drafting RB in the first round out the door? Man, that's a good question. Probably not, because I will tell you this. Not only will that be a rarity, but it's just such a good fit. I don't know that you could project another fit that good. I literally think it's been 5 or 6 years since there was a running back that fit that well in the system that they went to. And I don't think that that's going to reproduce itself anytime soon. So while I agree with you in concept, I don't think that'll actually play out. Scott, who is the one player from outside Mahomes that can't lose or could alter the season? Okay, now I'm with you. It's probably still Tyron. But losing Frank would be a blow as well. I don't feel like there's enough nasty from the ends to make up for that right now. Now, can Taco get there maybe? I don't know. Dana, Breland Speaks, Tano, they're all a little bit question marks, although I do feel that Tano is leading that group. And I think Okafor had a day off today too. I think that's not a specific injury, but in general. He's an older guy. I think he's going to play smart, but I don't know that he has enough edge to make up for that either. And Chris Jones isn't like a really like call him like he sees it nasty guy to push everybody. That's what Frank's for. And I think that would be a serious blow. Okay, Big Test. Nice to see you back, and thanks for the super chat. Much appreciated. Seeing as though CEH will be the featured back, what's your prediction for his totals in yards and TDs this season? This is going to catch you a little bit by surprise because I think he's going to score more touchdowns than get yards in terms of like the relativity, right? I just don't see that Andy wants to run that much, even though it's Clyde. So I'm going to say he'll probably be the yardage leader and he'll probably go 650, 700 yards. But I think he's going to score over 10 touchdowns because he's going to run a couple, and I think he's going to catch a lot of passes. Some of those are going to go for touchdowns too. So I expect him to surpass Damian last year in touchdowns. Not necessarily, what did Damian go, 560 in yards last year? I think he'll pass him a little bit there too, but Daryl's going to get some touches too. So that's going to hold it back just a touch. Great question, Test, and thanks for the super chat, bud. Brian Larson, thanks for your super chat. Very appreciative. I don't know that I've answered one of your questions before, so welcome if this is new for you. Glad you're here. Buy my tickets for the first 3 games. Want them to go to a Chiefs fan. Oh, this isn't a question. I thought it was. Okay. Okay. Well, hey, I want him to go to a Chiefs fan too, so that's okay. Russ, how good do you think Hardman can be? I think Hardman can be a number 2 receiver easily. I think he could be a number 1. I think he's young enough that if Tyreek plays a decade, plays a couple years past that, I think McColl's still on this roster. And I think he becomes the 1 probably. That's if he hasn't blown up so much that somebody signs him away from the Chiefs. Because in being a breakout candidate and being the guy that the defense is accounting for everyone else, and you're the guy who takes advantage, that does make you really attractive to other teams. So not having the 5th year for him on the contract is a deal that's important. But you might see him get a big offer from somebody if he does do the things that I think he can do soon. Michael DeVoe, Chiefs organization never purposely courts problem players. Who is out there to shore up the secondary within the Chiefs' budget? That's the big question. Now, Logan Ryan has a reputation for being a bit of a pain in the neck. I don't know if that's true for the Chiefs or not, or if that's how they perceive it. But the longer he's out, the cheaper he gets. I will tell you that. And I said a couple weeks ago, if he can come in for like around 4, something like that, I think they might do it. Again, because they'll take a little bit of a problem child. I mean, not like Marcus Peters and not like Earl, but they'll take a little bit of pain in the neck for that experience factor. So I think that could do it. I heard somebody ask me about Dre Fitzpatrick. I don't think that's in the cards. I'm not sure Tremaine Johnson's really viable for what the Chiefs want to do. So my gut would be a guy that can play safety and play in the slot is something that they like, and that would be Ryan of those 3 guys. So that's my thought. But I honestly don't think they're going to pull the trigger. I think they're going to make do, and they're going to let their young guys play, and they're going to take their lumps, and they're going to rely on the offense to score enough points to make up for the fact that they have to play young guys on defense. I just think that's the way they're going to go. Longmore. Big fan of Willie Gay's potential in this defense. I'm afraid that it stunts DOD as a dime backer. Have you heard anything about getting watch workouts from DoD? I have, and I do have a video coming for him on Thursday. So we'll go over his film, and I'll show you guys what I see. It's positive that we saw what Spags used him for last year, and specifically was against the Texans, against Deshaun Watson. I think he's going to, if he makes the roster, I think he'll get time against the Texans again because it proved very profitable. He did his job that they set up for him that was very specific to his skill set, but he did it well, and I think that's a positive thing. But right now, I'm not hearing him work with the twos. Willie's working with the twos, and Neiman is. And every now and then they rotate somebody else in there. But from what I understand, Dorian is not getting a whole lot of looks with the backups. And I don't think they're going to keep 3 deep. So the writing's on the wall. He's got to stand out here pretty soon. And I like Dorian. Again, I feel like he could probably play a strong safety role. But you got Dan Sorensen. That's not going to change. So I don't know. I would almost like to see him switch over to a safety role and see if he can be more natural there and see what he likes. But I think it's going to come down to the wire. We're going to have to watch what happens with Dorian. And I'll give you the positives and the negatives here coming up on Thursday. So make sure you get back for that film review. And yeah, that's me doing that one. Dan's got one tomorrow. Let's see. Got that one. Michael, how are you? Keeping it 100. I'm trying, man. Do you see the Chiefs keep 7 in the wide receiver room? Now, that's an interesting debate. Again, because you could keep a 7th wide receiver because you know he's got to play special teams, and that could be Marcus Kemp. That way you keep Fortson and Pringle and the big 4. But you got to give somebody else up. So it doesn't make sense to not keep 10 DBs, given that they want to play 3 safeties, so you have to have a 4th. And they're short on corners. That makes it tough, especially when you figure that if anybody's going to be in the closest contact with players that could get the virus or whatever and have to be quarantined where you can't play a guy, it's probably on the offensive line. So that makes you want to keep an extra guy there. And instead of carrying 8 or 9, you're talking 9 or 10. So that makes it difficult. I have a feeling right now that I don't think they're going to keep 7, but if they did, I think that would be Kemp, Fortson, and Pringle. Just my thoughts. Natalie, glad you're here. Nick, glad you're here. Nathan, you got a question too. Nice to see you. Is Kilgore a starting caliber O lineman, or is he an insurance guy? I think he's an insurance guy at this point. He might be able to push Ryder a little bit, but I don't think he's going to take his job. I think, honestly, it hurts Darrell Williams from becoming that guy that becomes the backup. But right now I see it as the starting 5, assuming Assembly is healthy, and Wiley at the right guard spot. And then Remmers will be the first guy off the bench, just like Cam Irving used to be, because he'll play tackle and he'll play guard on both sides, and he's capable of it. Again, he's not a high-end guy, but he's a guy who can do a little bit of all and keep things locked down enough for you to get by. And I think the 7th guy is going to be Kilgore. It makes sense. He's athletic. He's not overly powerful. I think he's mostly a center. I think he could play guard in a squeeze, but I think he's mostly a center, and the Chiefs like to keep a backup center. And I thought that was going to be Darrell. Darrell might move over to guard, actually, and have better luck. But that's kind of how I see it right now, Nathan. Great question. Baltimore. It's Ecliptic. That's whose beer this is. This is their Phaser Pale Ale. They're out in Portland, Oregon. Great brewery. Neil Burdett, how are you? I know people compare CEH to Sproles or Westbrook. I watched some LSU highlights of CEH, and I saw Joe Delaney. Can you see that too? You know, it's interesting that you say that. I didn't see that when I watched his film from LSU, but I didn't see Sproles either. Westbrook I saw. And there was somebody else, a little bit of MJD, just a little, like when he gets in a pile and he's pushing it, like I like that. But now that you say it, I can see how we could read a little Joe Delaney into that. So good pickup. I like that, Neil. Mace TV, does Pat go for 60 touchdowns and 5,000 yards? What's your over-under? I'll take the under on the yards because I don't think they're going to have to play out front as much. But I think he might break 50 touchdowns again. And if he breaks 50, why couldn't he get to 60? I think this is going to be an epic offensive season for Patrick Mahomes. Michael, do we like Allegretti or not? How about Yasser Durant and your favorite D. Washington from Ole Miss? Do we keep or cut him? Allegretti's on the bubble. I'm going to tell you that right now. The fact that he doesn't seem to be getting any looks with the ones means that he's not competing with Wiley for right. Durant got hurt. I don't know if it's a concussion. It's a head injury of some kind. And I always felt like he needed a year to develop some strength and get his body right to begin with. So I expect him to be a practice squad player. That technically is a cut, but I think you're keeping him on the practice squad. And Darrell Williams, I assume you mean Darrell Williams. Practice squad for sure. He could have an outside chance at the 53, depending on Kilgore and who the backup guard is going to be. Because I think the 6th and primarily the swing tackle is going to be Remmers. Steve, how are you? Would you agree that destiny played a part in the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl after 50 years and not selecting a quarterback in the first round? Destiny? Sure. Yeah. My Viking blood says there's something to that. So the fates were in alignment. I'm pretty happy, honestly, with the way that kind of wrapped around the 50-year mark, the first quarterback they drafted in forever. I think it's a nice tale to tell. Gary, what kind of player will Willie Gay be by the end of the year? Pro Bowler or average? I don't think he's going to be a Pro Bowler as a rookie. He's got a lot to learn, and he didn't play much last year. So I think there's going to be a physical wall that he might hit as well. But I think he's going to be a good player. Eventually, I think he has the potential to be a Pro Bowl player. I think he's a little bit more aggressive, a little bit better between the tackles than like a Deion Jones, but I think he's got the speed to play back there too. So I think he's going to have the opportunity. For me, it's going to be about how fast can he make the adjustment? How fast can he learn the scheme in order to exploit what he sees? The physical ability is there. And so I feel like as long as he keeps a good attitude and he keeps his energy up, it sounds like he's an energy giver, and I think that's great. I think he will be eventually a Pro Bowl player. Why not put in a waiver claim for Thaddeus Moss? I think that's an interesting one, but Thaddeus does not fit the prototype for what Andy wants. Thaddeus is a good blocker, and he does catch all right, but he's not his dad. He's not a burner, and he's not a huge leaper, at least from the film that I watched. So I think Andy still wants the wide receiver convert more. So they could. We should have heard, I think, by now if they were going to, though. We'll see what happens with it. Nathan, when do we have to cut down the roster to 53? I believe it's what is it? The 9th is the game, so I believe it's the 4th. I could be wrong. I'd have to check that, but it's I think it's post Labor Day weekend, but like the Monday, I'm guessing. Thoughts on Daniel Killer expecting to get signed by the Chiefs? Yeah, he's in. That did happen, Hood. Justin Trova, how are you, man? It's been a while. Do you think the Saints are the best competition this year? In the NFC, probably. I do believe that I have them going to the Super Bowl with the Chiefs. But I think the Ravens are a better team overall, and I think they're going to give the Chiefs a better run. Alan, cheers down under. I hope you guys are doing well. Nice to see you here. I'm really interested in the time change. You're going to have to drop me a line on that. Okay, let me find, because I just messed up my scroll. Oh, that's really lucky. I'm glad I kept that. Kevin, thoughts on Nick Kaiser and how legitimate you think he can have some playing time? It all depends on Yelder. I think he can make the team, and if he does, I still think it's going to be Ricky Seals-Jones unless Ricky's hurt. Ranked strongest arms in the league, or least to greatest. Sorry, strongest arms. Man. Marino's was great. And Vic's was great, but I think they're both behind the other three. So I'll go Vic, Marino, Elway, Mahomes, Favre. That's my thought. Casey, no, I've barely even played my Madden 20. I just bought it because Pat was on the cover. Will Thornhill make the Pro Bowl this year? If he plays a full roster or as much as any other team, I think he has a shot at it, yes. It's all about taking that next step forward and making plays on the ball. Sean Kurtz, is there any first or second year players that we as fans should keep an eye on? Most of them impressed during camp, draft pick or UDFA. Jody's one of them. Rashad Fenton's going to be a starter, and I think that's a little bit under the radar for a lot of folks for a second year player. Shirley Wan, and I think Colin Saunders is ready to be a better pass rusher, and I don't think you're getting much joy on him right now. I think there will be. I definitely do. Michael, if Alex gets cut, Okafor, I assume you mean, do the Chiefs see him as better than the current backups? Do we go after him? I'm not sure which Alex you're talking about, Michael. Hit me back. Will the loss of Yanda and Thomas hurt Baltimore much, or do they have good replacements? I think Thomas hurts. I think Yanda hurts a lot more, but I do feel that in terms of being a good line, I don't think it hurts Lamar because I think Lamar is an ascending passer, and I think his athleticism just takes over. And if he does get more pressure from the interior, I think he'll just bail and he'll make yards with his legs. It's another thing that I think Dorian O'Daniel could be there to guard against Lamar as well. So, I mean, you need somebody that can still hit and is decent size. I don't think Dorian's but a 225, but I don't know. It could work. Tyler, do you see no, I don't follow pro basketball. I watch college basketball, but not pro. I like defense. Osamele hurt during practice. Worried? Nah, not yet. Until I know the details, I'll let you know. And Aaron has a very good point. If you guys would like and subscribe and do all that good stuff, that would certainly help. I know there's been a lot of new people hitting the channel lately, so it's nice to see you all. I hope you enjoy this. Something that we do every week, even though I know it doesn't look great. Eventually it will. It's my internet, so don't be concerned about it. Tyler T, it's Daryl next, and then I think it's pretty close competition right now between DeAndre and Darwin for the third spot. Nathan, how many DNs do the Chiefs keep on the roster? They need 4, no matter what. I think they probably keep 5 and 5 interior guys. 10 on that group is my guess. Nope, that's not a question. Sorry. Rashid, how are you? Do you think it's possible that Breland doesn't get his spot back from Snead Fenton if he does great the first 4 games? I honestly don't. I don't expect any rookie to walk in there and take over for a veteran like that. Even if they have big games, I still think they're going to feel better. I think Spags and Sam Madison are going to feel better with Breezy out there. Now, that doesn't mean that later in the year it can't happen because there is a certain thing. Bashad has some limitations. He can be beaten deep. We've seen that. But he also makes some plays. So if he can just not be a knucklehead outside the facility, I think he's going to be okay. Scott, any NFL team ever had both offense and defense rookie in the same season? That's a great question, and I do not know the answer to that one. That's my weakness is on the NFL history stuff. I don't know all the stuff in the top of my head. There's just too many facts to keep in there. I'm to the point now in my life where to add new information, I have to get rid of something. Let's see. Kansas Carolina, how are you? Do you think Ben Neiman gets more snaps this year? Right now, it looks like he's going to. It looks like he and Willie could be in the nickel together at times. And I think that they trust him. So I think, especially early in the season, I think Neiman's going to play maybe more than Willie, but more than we saw last year for sure. Nathan, what happened to all the positive COVID tests this week? From what I heard, that it was a contamination at one of the labs. So there really was a positive case, but then either equipment or something like that contaminated a bunch. And so they got all these false negatives. They did end up having 6 positive cases for staff. A couple of those were coaches, as I understand, but not for players. So that's a positive sign. Norman, Jody Fortson, does he make the roster? Yeah, I think so. Good to see you too, Norman. What are your thoughts on this? Veteran Kilgore. Yeah. Covered that. Okay. I must be way behind in the chat, you guys. I apologize. Adam, any news on Breland Speaks doing? I haven't heard anything specific. So that's not necessarily bad. I think he's got a ways to go. So don't read that as a super negative. As it wears on, I think we might. How many teams do you think will give us big problems? I'm thinking 5. But I also know that any team can at any time. That's the thing is, is anybody can on any given Sunday in this league. And it's up to Tyron and Patrick and Andy to keep everybody focused and not overlook. I think that's the one thing that might trip this team up. If they get on a roll early, you can't overlook teams because anybody can pop you in the mouth. How ironic is that Andy finally won a Super Bowl with a long-running play rather than a pass? Well, hey, I think at that point he'll probably take it however he can get it. So, Ryan Strange, how are you? Do you think Fortson could sneak on the roster? Yep, that's what I was talking about before. Sorry I'm so far behind here, you guys. Trying to look for other ones. Was he guaranteed a spot? I don't know about guaranteed. He's clearly the second best tight end on this roster if he's healthy. I have not heard anything about Hassan Reddick either. Pono, how are you? Don't know about Pennell's suspension yet. We're hoping to find out this week. And is Ricky Seals done for the year? Not that I know of. I haven't seen the specifics of the injury, and somebody said he went back to practice yesterday. I have not confirmed that yet. I believe Mitch Holt has said that. Johnny Blue Jeans, thank you for your super chat. Nice to see you. I think this is your first question, if my memory serves. With the degree of which COVID may disadvantage teams, do you think that some might grant a short clemency to coaches who'd otherwise be on the hot seat? Could fewer options keep Bieniemy another year? I don't think at the end of the day that NFL owners care. I think the hot seats are going to be the hot seats, and if you don't win, you're going to be out. Maybe it's one or two jobs less. Maybe somebody gets spared for it, but I don't think it's going to be a big thing. I do think Eric Bieniemy will get a head coaching job this next offseason, and he will be gone from the Chiefs. So while that sucks, and I love seeing Eric Bieniemy out there, I love his attitude. You have guys like Kafka, Blameyer. I even think Dylan McCullough could be in the rotation eventually too. So the Chiefs have a good pipeline established for their coaching staff. Howard, how are you? Thanks for your super chat. Hey, I appreciate that. And I hope it's going well out in Carolina. I got a good buddy that lives out there in Raleigh. Appreciate the super chat. Nice to see you. Ryan Lane, who do you think will have a breakout year? Okay, I got that one before. That might have been Ryan's too. Sorry, you guys. Running behind here. According to Spags, Legarius has a long way to go. Yeah, he said the same thing about Willie. Just didn't say it quite as up front. So I think that puts Willie a little bit ahead, but I'm not worried. Is that a high concern? No. It sounded more promising. And how thin are we back there? And that's the thing is there's not much else back there. After Fenton, it's really thin without Bashad. So I think while he may have a long way to go, and I certainly would agree with Spags, I still think that puts him in the next pecking order as far as that goes. Congratulations, Aaron. Aaron accepted a new job offer, so give him a hand. Hopefully that won't take too much time away from here. and we'll have some announcements coming for you guys when we get the memberships launched and how we're going to go about that. Some of that's going to be shout outs on these regular streams. When you get to a certain level, you're going to get to have a private stream that will be offline. That will be more like an after hours. Well, we'll talk a little bit frankly and not quite so professionally. Hopefully Aaron will be involved in those along with Dan and I. And we might have some new contributors coming on board too. So, and Ryan, will Fenton get any playing time this season? Yeah, Fenton's going to be a starter. He will start week 1, guaranteed, unless he gets hurt. So knock on wood, Rashad's going to be in good shape. Carolina, are there rules when it comes to pumping up the volume in stadiums during games? Technically, you cannot have artificial noise during games. You can have music in between breaks. Maybe they pump that up, but they could also look at changing that rule as well. I know there's been some discussion about it. What do you know about the vet lineman the Chiefs signed today? Just that he's a center mostly. He could play a little guard, and he's pretty athletic. Fortson makes the roster as 6. Does Lipscomb stay on the practice squad? Lipscomb is definitely going to stay on the practice squad if I have anything to say about it. And my guess is that the Chiefs are going to want him on board for a while too. He's got a little kick return ability, but I don't think that gets him onto the 53. I think he is a practice squad guy, and I'm excited about he could be Jody Fortson next year in ascending as a UDFA. Do you think they overpaid for Carr? Because I think they paid him a little too much. I don't, and I probably won't even have a solid opinion on that for another year or two. Frank had a serious injury in that pinched nerve that prohibits you from doing anything with that arm. We're lucky he played, to tell you the truth. I think you're going to see more from him this year, and I think that'll make everybody feel a little bit more justified with his salary. Highly doubt this would happen, but is there any universe where Watkins or Robinson or both return this year? Definitely. You never know. Sammy said it. He's past the money. He's over. He wants to win championships. He said that in his own words. And Demarcus Robinson recently said that he wants to return as well. It's going to be about what are you willing to take in terms of a pay cut to stay and to keep catching passes from old 15. Did we dodge a bullet missing Earl? I think so. I did a reaction with Dan yesterday, and Chris and I talked about it on the Monday show. I think the Chiefs are in a better place than they would have been. There's nothing to say that he would have had such a meltdown here in Kansas City over Baltimore, but there's nothing to say that he wouldn't either. How excited are you to see Darrell Williams finally get more opportunities? I am pumped. I think Darrell's a good dude. He's another UDFA that came up through the ranks, worked his tail off, and got to where he is. Nothing against Damian Williams, but if Damian were still here and had not opted out, I think Darrell would have been stuck down on the totem pole. He might have even been a trade candidate. So I am excited to see it, and I'm glad it's going to be in a Chiefs uniform. Your luau awaits your return. I appreciate that. The skirt, I don't know, man. I know it's a tourist ritual and all that. I've gotten out of it every time I've been to the island so far, so I'm going to try to keep that up. Solemnly swear, thank you for your super chat. Appreciate the support. But hey, ask a question, man. That's what I'm here for. But thank you for the content. Dan and I do a lot of hard work on it, and I know you guys have been giving Dan some criticism, some feedback, and I think that's good. He's taking it to heart. We're only going to make this channel better. He's doing a great job helping me out. There's a couple other guys that might start helping out as well. So keep that in mind. Some of our posts are going up over on the Fan to Fan network as well. And Danilo's running those posts. You saw him during the draft. He's going to have something for you, a tailgate kind of special every week. So be prepared for that too. It's going to be great. Stevie, do you think CH is going to get at least 8 to 10 carries a game in a full season? That means it's 160 touches. At 4 yards a carry, that's 576 to 650. Yeah, that's exactly what I think. I don't think Andy's ever going to go. I mean, Andy had a game last year where the team only had 10 carries. I think 2 of those were Mahomes scrambles. So it's never going to be a high volume rushing attack. I've given up on that. As much as I would love to see it, I just don't think it'll happen. But as you said, this line is deceptively good at getting backs to a good yards per carry average. And I think that there's no reason to think that this won't happen either. If anything, I think Clyde and his ability to make people miss will pump that up a little bit. So yes, like I said earlier, the 650 to 700 range is about what I think for him on the ground. I think he may better that in the air, to tell you the truth. It's going to be really fun to watch, and that much I can tell you. Joe Clay, are you concerned between the suspension of the guys that Noddy and Assembly being nicked up that we might have to cut some good players to fill our needs short term? I mean, I'm always concerned about that. Any Super Bowl roster is tough to keep good guys because everybody's good at that point. But yeah, I don't think it depends on what you have to do. I'm not going to overreact on Assembly yet because I just don't know anything. Noddy, I need to see start to make some progress. I think he's going to be fine. I think he's a dude who wants to play. If he can't, then they have to do something to stash him, like temporary IR, so that they don't lose talent like that. That's a very good point. Nathan, do you see Puka Williams in a Chiefs uniform? I really don't. I mean, I wouldn't be against it, but I don't think that there's a need. Just my thoughts. I agree that DoD should be a safety, but couldn't Willie Gay also be an effective quarterback spy at that speed? Yes, he could, but here's the thing. The spy doesn't have to move that much. So he needs to be able to hover, change direction, and accelerate once he knows where the quarterback's going, right? Whereas I think Willie can turn and run downfield with backs and tight ends better than Dorian can. So that would be kind of like wasting his ability to get downfield and defend that maybe you don't have another guy that could. So that's my only thought on that one. Let's see. Brad GB, I hope that means Green Bay. I have some cousins up there. Glad you're here. First time here, but no one is talking about losing Colquitt and Townsend taking over. I think he's legit. I think the Chiefs do too, or they wouldn't have walked away from Dustin. Dustin has been a stalwart around here. Dustin is the guy that Patrick Mahomes took over for in representing the team to the NFLPA. That's how much of a solid citizen, a core player Dustin Colquitt was. And as sad as I am to see it, I know he's getting older. I'm sure he's going to be happy in his retirement. And so I'm with you that it would be nice to hear about him a little bit more. But I do agree that I think Townsend has a good leg. And it's been very quiet about him. So I think that's actually a good sign for a special teamer. Neil, I'm glad that it was. Good for you. 50-year wait. Alan, who's the biggest threat this season? For me, it is the Ravens. I know you said recently you don't expect a full season. Have you changed your mind? I'm inching that way, I have to say. I am pleasantly surprised with how few COVID-19 list guys there are. They seem to be doing a good job testing. They seem to be jumping on it when they do have an issue. So I think that's solid too. I am starting to come around. If they can get to week one, if they can get through week one without having like an outbreak on a given team, I think it's well within the possibility that they get a full season in. Good point. Thank you, Cole. I always forget that one. Kevin, I just got Townsend. I don't have much thoughts other than that. Not having seen the new guys, it's a little rough for me to give you a solid opinion. Could Andy Reid bring Gonzalez back to the Chiefs? I don't think that Tony really wants to coach. If he did, I think Andy would probably be open to it. I think he has respect for players that are that epic. I do think Derek Johnson will eventually be a coach, and I think Andy might give him a shot. Thoughts on whether they should go after him, Maximo? That's a good question. I think he's probably the top option, especially when it comes to fit with the Chiefs, but I just don't know if they feel like they really want him. They want zero headache, and it has to be an upgrade over the guys that they have. So without having watched practice and getting an idea for what I think they have, it's real hard for me to say that one. Let's see. What you have for the record prediction, I have 13-3-ish. And what records do you have any people setting? I think everything's up for grabs for Patrick. And I said a couple weeks ago I had him at what was it? I had him at 10-2 because I was thinking there was going to be cancellations and there might only be a 12-game season. If they do play 16, I'm with you. That 13-3 is about right. Could be 14-2, could be 12-4. Right in that zone, though. I think you're in the right area. Stevie, harder path to the Super Bowl, Chiefs or 49ers? I know which I think. 49ers had a good one too, but I think the Chiefs had probably overall a tougher time. I think their schedule was harder, and I think they faced teams that got up on them big where they had to find their backbone and come back, and I think they certainly showed that they can do that. Todd Tolfrey, I'm glad that you think that. I interviewed Adrian coming out of Miami before the draft in his season. And I came away thinking, and I said at the time, he'd be a great fit in Kansas City. Now, that was with the Sutton regime. Things have changed a little bit, but I still think that he's a good addition, and I like what he brings. And I think he needed that growing time, and I think he did that. I think he played for the Dolphins enough that he got his feet wet, and I think he can help this team. Final score prediction for the Texans. Man, I haven't even thought about this yet, but I don't think that the Chiefs are going to need a whole lot of uptime to get rolling. So I'm going to say the Chiefs 35 and the Texans 24. Let's see. Cole, I talked about Byron. I think he's the 5 right now. I think that's cool. That's a good spot for him. Alex Smith is who you're talking about, Michael. I don't remember what your actual question was, but yeah, I think I put nothing against Alex. I think he might actually see the field again against all odds. I will not be surprised by anything that Alex Smith actually accomplishes. Not at all. If Mahomes wins one more Super Bowl and MVP, is he automatic Hall of Famer? 2 Super Bowls and 3 MVPs in 2 seasons? Yeah, I think that's pretty much a done deal at that point, Gary. I could be wrong, but that's my thought. Tyler, thank you for being here. I appreciate that. Okay, no question. Well, I'll get you next time, I promise. But thank you for the comment. I appreciate it. Brad, first time here. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay. I get behind when I get to talking, so apologies. Cole, Ryan was talking about, okay, I got that. Sorry. Adrian, sign Dez. No, I don't think there's any room for Dez right now. No. Do you think Edwards is going to hold up in the starting position? Clyde? I do. I think they're going to manage it. I think they feel really good about Darryl. Probably not as good as I feel about Darryl, but I think they like Darryl. So I don't think they're going to be bashful about really not trying to stress him out, not having what Kareem Hunt had in the middle of his rookie season, where he got pressed into service and he kind of hit a lull. I think they're going to be a little bit more aware of that and use their backups, who all fit this offense pretty well, to good effect to spell him more. Yep. Got that one. Man, sorry guys, I went backwards. Steve, who's your short yardage grinder? Believe it or not, it might be Clyde. Short yardage, running in, pushing a pile. He did really well at LSU. As much as I want it to be Darryl, I think Darryl's actually better at the edges. I think he's better running zone and just hitting the crease, to tell you the truth. Okay, here's the question. Thank you, Aaron. You're a lifesaver. If Alex gets cut, do the Chiefs sign him as a better backup? I think there's question marks there. I don't think he'll be cut in Washington. I think his salary is structured in a way that it would not save them enough to make it worth it. He's an inspiration no matter what. But if he were, I don't think they would sign him. I just don't. I don't think they want to have any question mark. If Patrick had to miss time, they want an absolute done deal. And quite frankly, if he were to get cut, I think Alex might see his comeback as his victory and call it. I could be wrong. I don't think Alex Smith is trying to play again in order to win championships or do any of that. I think Alex Smith is trying to play again to prove that he can, and that prove that someone with a catastrophic injury like that can make it all the way back. But beyond that, if it's just a roster thing that he doesn't make it, I don't think he's going to feel like he needs to push himself that much farther. Is Armani Watts having a good camp? From what I understand, it's so up and down. Tedrick Thompson seems like he's past him, and I don't know what else is going on with the other backups. When I know more, I will let you know. How do you feel about Eric Berry being talked about with the Ravens? I think it's silly. I don't think Eric can play anymore. I think Eric's risking serious injury, and quite frankly, I think he would be with a team if he could play again. If he does, more power to him. I love the guy. It'll make me cringe seeing him in another uniform, but I honestly think it would have happened by now. Are the Chiefs going forward with 5 running backs? McGuire will be a practice squatter. I'm almost positive. No, I do not think so. It'll be Clyde, Darrell Williams. I think it'll be Washington at 3 and Darwin at 4. I think I said a couple months ago before Damian opted out that Darwin would be on the practice squad too. So I do think he's pushing down there. Let's see. Could Andy read? Oh, okay, got that one. I'm catching up here, you guys. I got one more super chat to make sure I get to, or 2. Maximo, I haven't seen Seals Jones yet, but I'm hopeful. Let me put it that way. Curtis, almost 14 million in the cap. I'm with you. Kevin, what happened to John? John's a Green Bay Packer. We'll see if he develops. I certainly hope that he does. And honestly, good for Aaron Rodgers. He's got another close-in weapon that he can use in the H. I like that. Super sticker. Thank you, Gino. I appreciate that. Maximo, I talked about Dorian. I think he's got a role to play. He's just got to fight off the other guys that are pushing for playing time. I'm pulling for him. I like Dorian O'Daniel as a player. Jason, haven't had to ask this for almost 2 decades, but how's the new putter competition looking? It's a done deal. Tommy is your guy. There is no competition. They let everybody else go. What do you think about the Chiefs doing away with the headgear and the tomahawk chop? It doesn't bother me because I've never been that kind of fan. I've never been a big fan. I'm an analyst. I've always been an analyst. I used to be a coach, and so it was never something that I got caught up in. And I think whatever side you're on, I think it's minutia. I think it's stuff that detracts from the fact that you support the team and you want the team to do well. And I think at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. All I care about is I don't think that the name is anything that should have to be changed. And I think by giving up some of these, outer things that are, maybe more debatable, as long as that keeps them from having to get pressure and deal with changing the name like the Washington Football Club had to do. I think that's what's important. I think this franchise should be named the Chiefs going forward, because I don't think that that's condescending or offensive to anyone. I don't know many Native Americans, but the few that I do know are Chiefs fans and have never been offended by the name itself. So I think that's okay. Good question, Neil. Stevie, you the man. You might have typed a question. I'll get to it, I'm sure. Info, thank you as always. We should draft more D. Williamses. Hey, you never know how many you could get on a roster. How many do you think we can get? I appreciate that. And I like the concept. Williams, and Williams. There was one time when they had like 4 D. Williams on here, and you never know, but we could find more. I'll have to look at the college ranks here. Michael, how are you? Not hearing much about Speaks. Does he have a shot? I think he does. I think he's probably recovering a little bit slow just because he was out all last year. But I think they're pretty happy with what shape he's in. I think, was it Spags or was it Brennan Daly? One of them had some positive comments about that he showed up in shape, and they were happy with that. And I think that helps him. And I do think he has a shot to play in the rotation, especially. I mean, Alex and Taco are going to be, I think, the top 2 opposite Frank, and Tano will probably back Frank up. Tano will play inside. Dana will play inside. Breland can play inside too, and I think that all helps. I think the bigger the rotation is, the better for everybody. Does the possibility of not having Pinella not a unique one freak you out as much as me? Probably not as much, because I'm confident in Colin Saunders, and I think they're going to be okay. The only thing that really frightens me there for the Chiefs is that they're not going to have a good way to stop the Ravens' rushing attack if those guys are out. If they have one, they're going to be fine. If both are out, it's going to be difficult. And it's going to fall on the linebackers to play aggressive, assignment sound football. Let's see. We're going to wrap it up here, guys. I didn't realize 10 minutes over, but sorry. Does Thornhill make the Pro Bowl this year? I'm not going to bet on it, but I won't rule it out either. Let's get him on the field first, and I'll give you a better idea after I see him play. Okay, last one. Scott Van Helsing. I'm just going to go with that. Which player was injured last would be a better player this year? Oh, whew. I mean, Speaks could make a big resurgence. Martinez Rankin could make a big resurgence too. So any of those could do it. Brian Larson. Okay. Thank you, Brian. I hope that you move those, you guys. Hit Brian in the comments if you're interested in those. And that is the last question I see. So I'm going to say this. Aaron Amaro, give yourself a hand, folks. Give Aaron some help. Curtis, Gary, Jerry, I don't think made it today. Stevie, Firefighter, Hog Farmer, all you regulars. Thank you very much. Thanks for picking up the slack and being in here in a positive way. It's my favorite thing about this is generally it's only outsiders that cause us trouble, and we're all pretty positive in here, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate you guys checking out all the other information and rolling with us as we add Dan and Danila's going to come on and whatever else we end up doing. We're going to keep spreading around and trying to make this thing even better. So thank you for all of your time. I hope you guys have a great night. More tomorrow, and then Dorian on Thursday, and then I'll have Matt Derrick on Friday. And then I'm going away for the weekend. So we'll have something for you. Dan will do something for Sunday night, and then we should be back here unless something goes awry with my trip. We should be here on Monday night. Otherwise, I might have my phone somewhere in an airport. So you guys have a great week. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.